Healing is not linear, and that is okay.
I don't understand why you're thinking of me. You had me at alone. I don't understand why you're thinking of me. You had me at alone.
Hey my loves, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're doing good. So today I am finally doing something that I promised myself and I told myself I would do about 4 years ago. We got there in the end. Today I'm going to be talking you guys through my mental health journey, how it all started, how I knew something wasn't quite right, and where we're at now. And I'm doing this because when I was going through everything, I, more than anything, just was looking for somebody, anybody who had been through anything remotely similar to what I had gone through, and I couldn't find anyone, and so I felt really alone and really ashamed, which did not help anything at all. So if I can be that person for one person, that was what I wanted to do 4 years ago, and that has not changed. So yeah, I will be talking about obviously mental health issues and like severe mental health issues at points, including unaliving oneself and the thoughts surrounding that. If that is something that may be triggering for you or triggering to you, please do feel free to click off this video. I will see you in my next one. I love you. Look after yourself. We're going to start from the very beginning. A very good place to start. And we start with me as a child. As a child, I was happy. I was talkative. I'd be chatting away, like saying all kinds of nonsense and rubbish as a kid. I was really good in school. I enjoyed maths all the way up until GCSE, if that gives you an idea. I was that kid. Yeah, I somehow managed to root my identity as being the smart one, which in hindsight was problematic. And then we get to sixth form. I did the International Baccalaureate in sixth form instead of A-levels. 0 out of 10, don't recommend. I think that was the first time I really struggled academically with, ironically, maths. And that threw me for a loop. I was not expecting that. I was struggling with what had been my favourite subject. I was always praised the girl that is good at maths, praised the A-star maths person, and here I was literally struggling. Also, the way that my parents responded to it was not great. I do vividly remember one night after parents' evening, that drive home was awkward. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to say anything. Something was constantly being said. Girl, I got called everything but a child of God, okay? Just to put it into context, and we're gonna leave it there. And so that definitely instilled in me a really deep fear of failure. I think I'd always had one, but that was like, oh girl, you could not get anything wrong. I had my heart set on studying medicine at university, and I did get into my first choice university. It was all downhill from there. I obviously, before going in, I was super excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a doctor, like I'm gonna be saving lives, and I'm gonna find the cure to like all of these diseases, and there's gonna be a cell named after me and things like that. It never happened. I arrived at university, and I think within a month I felt really tired. Like really tired, like excessively tired. I could sleep for like 14 hours in a day, and I could still I would still wake up the next morning with not a single drop of energy. If I pulled myself out of bed, it was a miracle. Okay, it was a miracle, and I wasn't used to this. I was very much used to, when I was back at home, being the alarm clock of the family. I would wake up at 5 in the morning. I would do all of that. I would wake everybody else up that needed to be up in order to get ready for school and stuff. So all of a sudden, not being able to do that, I was just like, praise you absolute lazy sod. Look at your age mates. Your age mates are getting up, your age mates are going to lectures, your age mates are doing X, Y, Z and ABC. But also, can I say that university had 8:45 lectures for med students, and I think that's criminal. I very quickly began to feel like a failure, a big fantastic failure at that, and it weighed on me so heavily because I wasn't used to failing academically. Academic failure wasn't something that I was used to and that I was comfortable with, and I would feel really low about the fact that I was failing, and that would wear me out even more, and I would feel even more tired. So I then didn't even have the strength and the energy to like get up and go and try and rectify it. I was like, okay, Praise, let's get to the bottom of this. What are you feeling? And I thought, tired. I felt sad, but I felt like that sadness could be justified by the fact that I wasn't doing well. I didn't like that. But I felt really, really exhausted, and that was like the primary thing that I was feeling at that time, and it was still very early on. I went to Holland & Barrett's to pick up some iron and vitamin C tablets, and I started taking them, and I also went to my GP to have blood work done, just to see what is going on. My blood work comes back, and everything is fine. They're like, yes, your iron levels are on the low end of normal, but normal nonetheless. And I was just like, and everything was fine. Like, hormone levels were fine, everything was literally fine. Like, I was actually fine, like in terms of like the blood work stuff. There was no indication of thyroid issues. They checked for all of those things. And then the doctor says to me, have you considered that it could be depression and or anxiety? And I looked her dead in the face and I said, And that appointment finished not long afterwards. I think, obviously, my first year in medical school went absolutely horribly. All of the years went horribly. It didn't work out, long story short. During one summer holiday, I remember just stumbling across something, and I just clicked on it. The title was Signs That You Might Have Depression, and I said, let me just click on this thing, because I knew a couple of people who were actually going through that. I was like, let me even understand what they're going through. And I began reading, and I was like, oh my gosh, word for word, bar for bar, this is what I'm going through. What on earth? And then of course there was another one that was the same, basically the same title, but for anxiety. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake, it's me. I was like, okay, so where to from here? In as much as I was like, okay, here are some answers. This explains so much, so much. I understand myself and my brain a little bit more now. On the other hand, for context, I am a black Nigerian Christian woman who, the only thing I'd ever heard about depression was, yes, black people don't get that one, no, that's not a black person's problem. And that was very much not my experience. I was in fact a black person absolutely going through it, and I felt like I cannot dare to tell anybody that my mental health was on the floor being dragged through a hedge backwards, because I'm not supposed to, according to everybody else, whoever these people are, I'm not supposed to be going through this in the first place. So for a really long time, I suffered in silence. To be honest, sleep was a really, really great escape from just all of it. But I didn't have to face what I was feeling. I didn't have to face any of that stuff. And I would always get to like the time I would go to sleep, and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna try again tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come, and then I would be literally like just unable to do anything. And then I'd get to nighttime and I'd be like, okay, we try again tomorrow. And it was a point of it got to a point where it was just a cycle of it. At night I can't wait for the next day comes and I can't wait for night. At night I can't wait for the next day. It was awful. Bear in mind, I am at this point still in university, and so the day of reckoning comes where I end up leaving without a degree. And so I go back home, yes, to my Nigerian parents, who did not take it very well at all. Bear in mind, my mental health is already on the floor, so to come home, I was already afraid. And I already felt such a deep sense of shame and guilt over the fact that I had dropped out of university. I weirdly felt relief though, because I no longer had to try and pretend to show up in that capacity and in that environment. So I get home, my father tells me, Praise, you have let down women, black people, Nigerians, Nigerian women, just everybody. And the list was going on of all of the people that I had let down. I'm not being funny, I'm only 5'5". Why was I carrying them in the first place? And again, so that was just some more shame added to the pot. And then I was told by my father that I was a failure, that I had failed, I was a letdown, I was a disgrace. What will we say to so and so? What will we say to this person and that person who asked after you and that person who didn't? And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, I genuinely don't care what you say to anybody. But at the same time, I was really self-conscious about it all, because I was raised in that environment of what will everybody else think being the driving force behind why you did anything, really. And so, it was rough. I got to a point where it just became more than I can handle, I think. And I was just like, yeah, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. And you know what? I don't want to. I really don't. My life is over. And I began contemplating a very, very permanent solution for that. And somehow it came up in conversation one Sunday with my mother. And I told her that I was feeling and I was thinking thoughts of unaliving myself. And she said to me that, well, if you unalive yourself, life will continue. The world goes on. I was in shock. I don't know what I expected from her. I think me telling her in that moment was a cry for help, and I don't know what I expected, but never in my wildest dreams did I expect that response. Thankfully, I didn't go through with it. I would journal. My journals would be taken out of my room with certain pages ripped out, which would be the pages with the newest entry of the day, and it would be read out to my family, amongst my family, and then there would be lots of shouting involved afterwards, as well as other things. So many things were just wrong, and I got to a point where I just realized living at home was not the best thing for me, and so I made plans to move. And I actually found somewhere, and I then broke the news to my parents. After I had announced that I was going to be moving, the things in the house just got so much worse. So I began to pack and things like that, and then the day came, and then my father hears sort of commotion and things and says, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" I said, I'm moving out. There was verbal, all sorts, and then there were threats of physical contact. And I knew he was capable, don't get me wrong, I very much knew he was capable. And then they begun obviously making phone calls in a bid to stop me. They called someone in the church who they expected would do right by them. I don't know what that was supposed to mean, and the person went ahead and told everybody that I was a bad influence and told everybody to stay away from me and things like that. But realistically, my parents gave him the rope to hang me with. So when we think about it, I can't really blame him. I blamed him so much because I didn't live with him. I didn't have to suffer the consequences of blaming him. So yeah, he was a minister in the church. Possibly should have known better. I don't know. I don't care. Off of the back of that, I essentially felt like I lost everything that day. I ended up not moving because then there was a revelation of more stuff that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna look like such a bad person if I then leave knowing this. It's not a good motivation. It's not a good reason to stay in a toxic environment, people. When you know it's time to go, you know it's time to go. Go. Like, actually abscond, get out. That day, I lost a lot of friends. There were a lot of people that stopped speaking to me, and things like that. And yeah, that was damaging. That was traumatic. And as you can imagine, that as somebody that's already suffering with depression and anxiety, I lost a huge chunk of my support system that day, and that was genuinely devastating. And I can't even say I relapsed. I just got worse. I was already in a really bad way anyway. I got worse, and for the next 3 months I was like a shell of myself. I'm typically someone who at that point in my life was really, really well able to emote, and I couldn't. Something switched off, and I just felt like no, there was no point really trying to do anything or trying to get myself out of a terrible situation, because I had tried to get myself out of a terrible situation that time and look at what had happened, and I was genuinely despondent. Eventually though, I did get better. I ended up leaving, sort of working full-time, and so I felt like quite upbeat about things. And then lockdown happened. It was fun for like the first 2 weeks, I won't lie, it was fun for the first 2 weeks. I had an excuse not to get on public transport. I hate public transport. I cannot drive though. I had an excuse not to get on public transport, not to leave my house. No one could tell me to go anywhere. And on Thursdays at 8 PM, I got to stand outside my door and clap. When do you ever do that? Okay. And then I was just like, week 3, it just got to a point where it's just like, I am all alone by myself. There is no one to talk to. There are only so many 3-hour conversations on FaceTime that I can fit into one 24-hour period, okay? I just had time to think way more. And as someone who has anxiety, overthinking is not something that I need extra time to do, okay? I do it anyway. So that impacted my brain a lot. I think where I'm at now is that I have gotten a lot better at managing my brain and my mental health. I've gotten better at like catching myself at the start of the slope rather than being like at the bottom, like right in the valley, and realizing, ah, yeah, something is very not okay, like something is very not right. I'm able to kind of spot when I've been going good, and then all of a sudden I feel myself like kind of feeling a little bit less good, and I'm able to do certain things and like sometimes just take time out for myself to recoup and just sometimes talk to people and things like that. But yeah, I've gotten a lot better at managing mental health. But I'm also there's so many factors to what has contributed to those moments, and I think I've gotten good at reminding myself that when the days aren't that great, healing is not linear, and that is okay. I think for a really long time I put a lot of pressure on myself to just be okay, overcome all of the things that you've dealt with that got you to this point, so that you can now just entirely be better and do it in a straight line upward path. And yeah, like I just wanted to say, obviously my story has a lot of twists and turns and crazy moments and stuff, but I just wanted to say, for anybody going through anything that looks like any aspect or combination of aspects of what I described today, you're not alone. I just wanted to share my story with you, and yeah, I will see you in my next one. I love you guys so much. Bye.